one of PM Modi's trusted economic advisors and among India's top-notch economists. He's an intensely private man, obsessively shy and low profile. RBI Governor Urjit Patel lets his actions speak louder than words. He has successfully steered the Indian economy and financial markets through a turbulent phase after demonetization. He may be low-key, but he's no pushover. Just when you thought an interest rate cut was a slam dunk in the last RBI policy statement, he did nothing like that and, contrary to expectations, even adopted a mildly hawkish tone. 100 days after demonetization, Dr. Patel speaks to CNBC TV 18 and moneycontrol.com in his first television interview since taking charge as RBI governor last September. The Oxford and Yale-trained economist opens up to me on a range of issues in a rare interaction. From demonetization to rate cuts, from the level of the rupee to global economic challenges, Dr. Patel answered all questions on a range of issues. Dr. Patel, thank you for joining us and for giving us this exclusive interview, your first after taking over as the governor of the RBI. My first question is related to the policy. In a run-up to the policy, many commentators were expecting that you would go in for a rate cut, given the low headline inflation rate. But you did not do that, and you shifted the monetary policy stance from accommodative to neutral. What are your reasons?
The Monetary Policy Committee resolution and statement that was published last week was fairly extensive in terms of the explanation that was given. To recap, since we have committed to move closer to 4% inflation because of the legislated and notified mandate of the government, we needed to look beyond the headline number to see where the kind of disinflation that is needed to take us towards 4 would come from. And the committee felt that there is that inflation excluding food and fuel is something that has been stubborn since September, October, and has shown a little sign of coming decisively below 5. And that was the main reason why we had to look through the headline inflation. The other reason is that the effects of the demonetization and now the remonetization also may impact some of the commodities where we have seen disinflation, but we don't know to what extent and for how long. It's most likely going to be short-lived. For example, the disinflation in vegetable prices. Therefore, the headline number needed to be looked through, keeping in mind that we need to get to closer to 4% on a durable basis, but in a calibrated manner. And that was the reason that the MPC thought that we needed to have the flexibility going forward. Therefore, the shift of the stance from accommodative to neutral. And that's the main reasoning. We also find that internationally, commodity prices have firmed up. The international food price index has gone up. The base metal price index has gone up. Crude prices continue to be in the mid-50s and staying there for some time, given the data of the past few months. So the Monetary Policy Committee noted that while inflation will be in the range of 4 to 4.5% in the first half of the next fiscal year, it then actually increases to 4.5 to 5%, and that was one of the main reasons why we had to take the stance that we did. That while we will have some beneficial impact on inflation in the next few months, it then reverses itself, mainly because inflation ex food and fuel continues to be relatively high.
How should we understand and interpret the neutral stance? Does it mean that there will be no rate cuts in the next 3 months or no rate cuts in all of 2017?
The Monetary Policy Committee could either keep rates constant, increase them, or bring them down. There are 3 options possible compared to when it is accommodative. So So given how the inflation outlook changes, if at all, over the next few readings, in terms of the data that comes about, and our projections based on that for the next fiscal year, policy changes could be either one of those three.
Okay. Under what circumstances would you consider a rate cut? Is inflation the only thing, or are there other factors in the mix as well?
Well, we have been mandated by the government, backed by legislation, that we have to have an inflation target of about 4%, a central tendency of 4% over the medium term, and therefore that is our main objective in terms of the policy of the central bank, which is now determined by the MPC.
Does this stance of yours mean that the economic recovery could be sooner and sharper than what most forecasters are predicting?
Well, actually, if you look at our projections that were published last week as part of the MPC, that we expect growth to be about 7.4% in the next fiscal year, which is about 50 basis points more than the projection for the current fiscal year. And therefore, there is a recovery compared to this fiscal year going into next year. There are some good reasons behind that recovery. One is that international trade, especially exports after a long time, are now showing some life. We have had 5 months of positive export growth. I think the budget has provided impetus to key sectors which has multiplier effects, realty, housing, the rural segment. And over time we will see that some of the capacities that had been installed in the past will come up for expansion. So the private investment demand is something that maybe in the second half of this year we may see a little bit of fillip coming from that source also. So our central estimate for next year is 7.4%, which I think is a highly respectable growth rate under the circumstances.
Your assessment of the economic pickup and GDP forecasts are rosier than what has been predicted by the chief economic advisor and some others as well. What do you have to say to that?
Well, we predicted a 7.1% growth in December for the current fiscal year based on the information we had at that time, which was in the immediate aftermath of the withdrawal of the specified banknotes. And we came up with a 7.1% number through the exercise that we had done internally at the RBI, which was also a number very close to what two multilateral agencies at the time also came out with. Both the ADB and the World Bank came out with numbers of 7.1%. And then we have revised that estimate at the February policy as more data has come in. And while we give a point estimate, actually our statement has a fan chart, which shows that there is uncertainty around these numbers. We could very well give a very broad range and then never be proved wrong. But we don't have that luxury.
Today marks 100 days of demonetization, a period which has been fairly turbulent for the Indian economy. Do you think that, in your estimates, do you think that the Indian economy will be able to shake off the negative impact of demonetization?
Well, almost everyone agrees that the impact is going to be a sharp V, that we would have a downgrade of growth for a short period of time, but the remonetization has happened at a fast pace, and that was part of the plan. That subsequent to the withdrawal of the specified bank notes, our production plans and supply processes would ensure that the remonetization happened as quickly as possible, and which, given our capacities in terms of printing currency notes, is at a high level.
Looking back, the last 100 days of demonetization, Do you think that the principal objectives of the exercise have been met? And do you think that corruption has been reined in and counterfeiting as well?
Well, there were several objectives behind this. From the RBI side, the fake Indian currency note is an important issue that needed to be addressed. The other collateral benefits from this, in terms of greater accountability, better public finance, more transparency, are by definition areas that take time for to fully play out. We have also had financial reintermediation in terms of greater financial savings going into deposits, mutual funds, insurance. So there have been a fair number of benefits. The impetus given to digitization is something also that should be beneficial going forward. But I think in all these supportive policies and more work is needed so that these benefits are not only tangible but are long-lasting and durable.
Okay, one must compliment the RBI for managing the rupee despite the FCNRB outflow and demonetization. Do you really believe that the rupee is overvalued, and is that a cause for worry?
Well, the exchange rate value of the rupee is broadly market determined, and the Reserve Bank of India, in terms of its long-standing policy, is that we intervene only during episodes of undue volatility.
There is a feeling that, if the rupee is overvalued, then, it could mean, it could stunt growth because imports can go cheaper. So that's why the question.
Yeah. Well, our current account is low, and it has been low for some time now, and it's at a level that is easily financeable. So in that sense, the rupee is broadly where it should be.
From your vantage point, how do you see the global economy, given the momentous political changes that have taken place and its knock-on effect on economic policy and trade?
The change in policies from the largest economy in the world, namely the US, is something that the world will have to start getting used to. Because it is a major change in terms of openness to trade, in terms of trade barriers, in terms of the kind of fiscal policy that the new government may undertake, which, against the backdrop of a tightening monetary policy stance by the US Fed, has a real possibility of financial volatility going forward. I think some of this uncertainty may get resolved. For example, what the new government's taxation plan is going to be, which will then impact the fiscal deficit on the US. And some of it may actually add to the volatility going forward if there are too many flip-flops in terms of what is actually going to get implemented. So I think we are at an important juncture, and the possibility of negative consequences for countries around the world is a possibility. I think Asia may come in for special treatment because almost 2/3 of the US trade deficit in goods is with respect to Asia. And we just have to see how things evolve in terms of tangible policy changes, which I think the US government so far seems to be fairly determined to carry through.
Now, how much of a cause for concern is it for an economy like India?
I think it's a cause for concern for the world. I think it's a cause for concern for emerging markets. And in terms of creating financial volatility, I don't think anyone will be safeguarded from it, and we have to manage this as it plays out. There are some things that are under our control, and that is to ensure that we ourselves follow sound macroeconomic stability rules, and I think we are at a good place with respect to that. We have had a budget where the fiscal deficit has been reduced. We have a central bank which has a mandate for flexible inflation targeting. We have reserves which are at over $360 billion, and we have a current account deficit that continues to be modest. So we need to look after these attributes of macroeconomic stability, and that will allow us to withstand some of these sources of turbulence that come from the wider world.
Fed Chief Janet Yellen has signaled a rate hike possibly as early as next month. What would it mean for Indian financial markets and the rupee?
I think the Fed had indicated in December that there would be 2, possibly 3 Fed hikes in 2017. So a fair bit of that is already priced in. And given that financial markets are forward-looking, from that source alone, I would expect, and I would underline the word expect, that the repercussions may not be that much as compared to when the Fed increased the interest rates in December and issued a hawkish statement. I think that was the news. I think subsequent to that, the Fed views on what it was going to do in 2017 has been fairly consistent.
Just taking the world economy question forward, do you see that there is some room for optimism as well? What would you advocate today for corporate India? A cautionary stance or an expansionary mindset?
Well, it's not for a central bank to advise businesses what it should do. I think there are opportunities in each sector, and they are best placed to figure out how they want to both manage their risks while expanding their footprint.
So Urjit, we've been sort of fed on the virtues of globalization for the past 2 decades. President Trump, is increasingly towing a protectionist line. What does this trend mean for an economy like India?
We have had a sustained opening up of our economy since the early 90s, and I don't think that we should change our stance in any way, because we do benefit from an open trade regime, and I think India's policy that the openness of trade should be carried through a multilateral process is the right one. Now, depending on how the U.S. carries forward the agenda that has been put out, and how other major economies react to that, because I think one issue that people are not realizing is that there will be a reaction to what the U.S. does. That could get messy. Hopefully wiser heads will prevail, and we won't go down that road. But I think it's important that we should be on the side of keeping borders open with respect to trade and movement of factors of production.
So what, in your opinion, are some of the global worry factors that probably keep you awake at night?
I think the lack of a consistent policy enunciation from major economies is the main source of volatility. I think clearer policies that take into account what in terms of the externalities that they create, if those are not put out in a consistent, well thought out manner, then that causes financial volatility, and given how fast financial flows happen, it affects us very quickly, as indeed it affects other countries. I think in terms of our mandate of the RBI, etc. I think the hardening of some of the internationally traded commodities is something that we need to be worried about, because that would feed into inflation. So there is a real side to it, and there is a financial side to it. By the way, most analysts expect in 2017 the world to grow at a faster pace than 2016. So I think that's the good news.
So on the subject of growth rate, do you think we will be able to achieve 9% plus growth rates anytime soon?
Well, these things, in terms of predicting what are the sustainable growth rates, are not easy to make. If very fundamental reforms take place, especially when it comes to factors of production like land, labor, then a higher growth rate is possible. Now, how much higher than the 7.5 that we are achieving so far is difficult to say. But the fact is, we did grow at some point faster than where we are now. But it could very well be that was unsustainable, and this is sustainable. So I think 7.5% growth rate is not something to be disappointed.
Not at all.
Yeah.
How do you respond to the recent criticism of the Reserve Bank of India? Do you personally feel upset about it?
It's important that one grows a thick skin fast in this business, and I think we have done that. We have gone about our work. We had undertaken major challenges during this past few months, and valid criticism is something that we are open for, and we take it in the spirit in which it is given and try to improve ourselves. But everyone also agrees that not only the RBI but the wider banking system has done a Herculean job over the last few months, and over this period when there were many challenges. And I think that's also important to keep in mind, given the scope of the challenge, how far people worked to get over them.
You spent a lot of time explaining me some of the work that you've been able to do over the last few months. Do you feel sad that, sometimes media tends to look at the negative more than, some of the good work that has been done? I mean, even in the case, let's say, of remonetization.
Well, that's always been the case. So
we aren't that
bad. These things. What makes news is fairly subjective in this regard. In terms of the remonetization, we are proceeding at a pace that is very quick, and therefore we have managed to bring the situation to normal along most of the dimensions after the demonetization. In a way, this was part of the plan. We would be printing the currency notes to full capacity from day one, and we would reach a threshold point in this process when things do become more or less normal. That's again part of the good work that has been done.
So you are saying that it was a part of a plan that was set into motion many months before the demonetization exercise kicked in?
Yeah, I mean, I think that given the currency replacement that was required, these kinds of plans and programs are set in motion a long time back in terms of the supplies, the orders, the logistics, organizing the distribution, just in terms of the sheer number of notes that need to be printed in a new denomination to replace the older ones.
So, Urjit, most finance ministers, over the past few years, expect the RBI governor to cut rates. Despite that, this time you've been able to maintain a mildly hawkish stance. Just goes to show that your equation with Mr. Jaitley is terrific.
Well, the best way that a central bank can support growth on a durable basis is to ensure that inflation is low, stable, there is financial stability, and that is the role that the central bank plays. Very few countries grow at a high growth rate if inflation is high and volatile. So I think in a way we are doing our bit to support a higher growth rate, but on a durable basis. And with the constitution of the MPC, we have now diverse views on how the monetary policy is established every 2 months. And I think that's a very important milestone in our economic history, that the monetary policy is now determined through a committee process where there are both independent committee members and representation from the RBI.
Urjit, thank you so much for this interview. Thank you for taking time out and giving us this exclusive. It was indeed my privilege to interview you as the Governor of the Reserve Bank of India. All the best.
Thank you, Rahul. Appreciate it.